It's day 16 of the T20 Men's World Cup in the Caribbean in America. I'm Adam Collins, Daniel Norcross with me. This is the final word for Westfield London. Westfield, Stratford City. Daniel, sum up the Pakistan Island dead rubber in about 12 seconds, please.
Utterly ludicrous. Ireland should have lost it inside an hour. Somehow they contrived to score more runs than they should have done. And Pakistan contrived to take ages over getting a low total. In the end, Pakistan won by 3 wickets. They could have saved us a lot of bother by doing it about an hour and a half before.
Gee, Daniel, we've had some low-scoring thrillers in this tournament that we've got quite excited about, and there were some interesting moments when big, bad, bustling Barry McCarthy took his 3 for 15 in a hurry. It felt like it might be game on, and had Ireland won the game, I would have felt differently, but the fact that Pakistan have gotten there when Shaheen Shah Afridi showed some pills and hit a couple of sixes and made sure of it at the end, the between times was fucking shithouse. This was not a good game of cricket. Ireland batted poorly. Pakistan bowled intensely at the start. That was fun. But symptomatic of the whole thing was the chaotic way that both sides used the decision referral system, the way the third umpire adjudicated it, all the bullshit in between. It felt like Ireland were 1 for on the plane home early on. To their credit, they stuck fat. They did lose Josh Little in the process with an injured calf. Mark Adair did good things. There was a moment there with Benjamin White as well with the ball. But broadly speaking, that wasn't a great advertisement for short-form cricket.
What was the point? That's the thing. It was so difficult, really, to take it seriously. And yet it seemed to last longer than almost any other game we've had. You mentioned all those referrals. There were umpire referrals as well for things that so clearly weren't out. You know, bump balls that were obvious. And everybody, I think, was trying to put on a show because there were 4 games scheduled here in Lauderhill. Not Fort Lauderdale, Lauderhill, which, for those of you who don't know, is in the middle of bloody nowhere. The hotel that I'm in is 20... Everyone goes, oh, you're near the beach in Florida, isn't it lovely? No, you're not. You're 10 miles away. There's nowhere to eat. There's no restaurant in my hotel. I basically got to take an Uber in every day to meet up with the gang, to go to a beach that's utterly beautiful, or I will spend the day looking at monitor lizards and try to avoid snakes and the occasional gator. And there is this stadium here, which is a proper cricket stadium. Lots of cricket has been played here. International matches between, Pakistan, the West Indies, New Zealand have played games here. It's an established ground, and it had dumped on it truly biblical levels of rain, 10 inches in like a day. So the first 3 games were washouts. Yesterday's game involving India didn't happen. It was actually a couple of damp patches was all it was. So when the rain hadn't come overnight, hearts sank or rose depending on where you come from. A part of me wanted the war story of 3 consecutive washouts coming utterly pointlessly. Because then you get here for this game, and the best one in the world, what's on it? What's on it is Pakistan avoiding an absolute ramming from their fans and they lose another game. What's in it for Ireland? I suppose actually to get the chance to play a game of cricket, because they've been here this whole time. I think they've had to train twice because of various reasons, where they've been, when the rains come in various different parts of America. They've had a really torrid time, and I feel really sorry for them. So there was a chance to showcase their skills. That was all it was. And Ireland went out there to show we are aggressive. Under the new captaincy of Paul Sterling, we're going to go hard. And look, I hate to say this because I love this Irish team, and I think Paul Sterling is a brilliant captain for them. They're playing with smiles on their faces and all sorts, but it almost came close to them embarrassing themselves at points today. Curtis Camphor's dismissal, and that, I think it might have made it around 32 for 6 at that point, when he's going for a big old yahoo to a ball that's there to cut, and he spoons up a catch. They kept showing the intent. Then there was the one partnership. And then, actually, the most intelligent bit of cricket in the entire day was Ireland's 10th wicket partnership, where Ben White, who is, look, mate, he's worse with the bat than either of us. He's absolutely hopeless, groping in thin air, blind as a mole, just ball after ball. The Pakistanis refusing to bowl it straight, just putting it outside off stump, and he's nowhere near it. But, excuse me, he's trying to stay in for his partner at the other end. And he does do that. And they eke out another 27 runs. And all that did, frankly, was take 25 minutes to get there and take Pakistan 25 minutes to get there themselves.
And the rest.
And the rest, indeed. And you just sort of, at the end of it, you said it's not a great advert for short-form cricket. If there'd been something on this game, it would have been a brilliant game. but there wasn't. And so
Yeah,
it's
look,
just like,
I think my perspective is more to do with the fact that there were so many skill errors early on. And look, let's rattle through a few things that happened along the way. There was an exciting passage where Shaheen Sharafridi got the ball moving in the first over. That's always going to be worth watching when he goes through Balbo with one that swings third ball. He's knocked over, and Paul Sterling's out in the second over. Lorcan Tucker out in the first over. Harry Tector, there's a shout for leg before first ball, which isn't given. They review it, one of a series of early reviews. Pakistan used both their reviews early on. There's that wild over with Chris Gaffney officiating where Shaheen uses the second review. Then he has a wicket that's given not out, but he can't review it. Then he gets a leg before. That's Harry Tector, which he should have reviewed because it was pitching outside leg. Complete chaos in the best traditions of Pakistani cricket, I suppose. But at that juncture, they're 15 for 4, 28 for 5 when Dockrell gets a leading edge from memory, yes, to Muhammad Amir, who bowled quite nicely, the excellent slow ball there, and the aforementioned pull shot that wasn't there from Curtis Camphor that left them 32 for 6. There was a bit of a fight back. Gareth Delaney, who, I like the work of him. He always has a crack, made 31 from 19 against the flow of play. Had some support down the list from Mark Adair, and then the 22 not out from Josh Little, as they, as you say, added 26 runs for the final wicket, batting throughout the course of the last 5 overs, just trying to hang on. And then, look, Pakistan looked to be doing it fairly comfortably, slowly, but comfortably. When Rizwan fell, it fell. Oh, hang on, that's a bit odd. Rizwan was to that point batting quite conservatively, but 39 for 2 in the 6th over. Okay, that's fine. They're going to win in 15 overs. But then the squeeze starts. Fakir Zaman caught by the sub. Ross Adair, Curtis Camphor gets a wicket with his first ball. Barry McCarthy goes bang, bang, bang. And at one stage, it got down to 62 for 6 when Imad Wasim was out. He could take the first plane back to Swansea's from, isn't it, Imad Wasim?
yeah.
Pack of fags from duty free and back to Swansea for him. And then 95 for 7 when Abbas Afridi tried to finish it. And I can understand why he was doing that. He made an important stand there with Babar Azam, who was 32 not out at the end. So that's the game in a nutshell. But in terms of the way it slowed down to an absolute crawl in that second part of Pakistan's innings. It's like they were going out of their way to see, can we make this as long as an IPL game? It's got nothing riding on it. Well, how about the bit in the 10th over, Daniel, where 2 wickets fell in the 10th over, yet we didn't call for the drinks? Isn't the etiquette that when the over that the drinks are meant to be called for, if there's a wicket, you bring it forward? What's going on with that? Why are we delaying the inevitable?
That's changed. That's happened to me a couple of times on comms, actually, in this World Cup. Not just here. Up in New York, there's been wickets fall in the 10th over. I was utterly bamboozled. I couldn't understand it because you'll remember in the last World Cup, T20 World Cup out in Australia, wickets were forever falling in the 10th over and they were forever taking drinks. It slightly messes with the rotors for the commentators because that means that the commentator who's going to leave at the end of the 10th over always downstalls immediately and goes, and to take you through the drinks break and have to wibble pointlessly, it'll be Henry Moran, But of course, when the wicket fell, that meant that the other commentator would go, no, you do the drinks break, and then you take it through to the end of the over. So I was well aware of that. This tournament, they've changed it. You just keep going. And it was infuriating. I mean, just back to a couple of your points there, Babar Azam. The most Babar Azam innings in the history of Babar Azam. 32 not out in 34 balls with 2 fours. Mercy. I mean, it played well enough, but why? I mean, you know what I mean? The kind of a why, and then across the tournament. I mean, just to reflect, not for too long, because this game doesn't deserve it really, but Pakistan and Usman Khan, they've scored 52 runs between them in 7 completed innings on this World Cup. I mean, that is appalling. They're batting at 4 and 5. And I know you'd say, well, maybe Barbara and Rizwan have batted for 80s. Well, they haven't really. They batted for a fair bit, but they've had plenty of chances. That middle order, and it went Imad Wasim today. All the talk at the start was they've got to get me fresh blooded. What is Imad Wasim doing there? Why is it Picard in the squad? Well, Imad was their star bowler. You can't be getting rid of him. It was kind of necessary. So the problem for me is I don't know what Pakistan take from this game or from this World Cup, because the 2 guys that you really do think you can start and build a middle order around, Usman and Bakar, utterly screwed up. They were in a terrible tournament. The guys that have been possibly decent are the ones that you already knew about, Rizwan and Babar. And we all know that they've got fabulous bowling. I mean, today, I do think this game might have finished a lot earlier if Abbas Afridi hadn't played and Nazim Shah had, because they wanted to give Abbas Afridi a run out, and he had a terrible time with the ball, actually. I think about nerves got to him. Some balls were slipping out here and there. His 3 overs went for, on memory, 28, something like that. Not great.
Had 16 taken from him at one stage when they were working through that fight back. You know what, Daniel? What you said before rang true with me. This game doesn't deserve any more attention. I'll just note on the way through that the relatively new chair of the PCB, Mohsen Nabki, has said they will require surgery on this team when they get home. In a way, I feel for the players who go home for Pakistan. They've had a stinker. Look, this week's been an absolute shocker for them. Sure, they're winners today, but unconvincingly. After what happened in the game we were covering at New York this time last week, everything really gone wrong. And, of course, losing to the US as well and not making it through to the Super 8s. But I just hope that there's some degree of calm and they don't go away and sack everyone again, because that's not the solution. You don't just sack everyone and start again. I mean, there's got to be some continuity there, but time will tell on that. Daniel, before we go to our break and come back to talk about the more interesting game that we're scheduled to discuss, Australia-Scotland last night, a word for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Forget Taylor Swift at Wembley, forget Robbie Williams in Hyde Park, and forget the Oval Invincibles versus the London Spirit, because this summer's hottest ticket is to the Sabibi's Rainbow Experience at Westfield London. Kids and guardians can explore the worlds of Hey Dougie, Bluey, Mr. Tumble, and Jojo and Gran Gran. That's got a St Lucia link, Daniel, that show. The grandmother's based there. Winnie likes that. Together before meeting one of the big names at the end of your journey. Not sure if this is good? Well, imagine meeting a beloved childhood figure such as Thomas the Tank Engine, Ozzy Ostrich, or Tony Blair. The Sabibi's Rainbow Experience opens this summer at Westfield London. Westfield London, if there's anywhere you can buy a child's love, it's here. They're doing good work, Daniel. They're doing good work. On that excellent high note, we're going to take a break. We'll have the Final Word Hall of Fame later, but first we're just going to divert to last night. Australia-Scotland, back in whatever the group was, back in a sec. It's the Final Word Daily, Day 16, Adam Collins and Daniel Norcross. Last night, Australia and Scotland. It was Australia who got the job done with 3 balls to spare, but it does rather belie the way this game played out, with Scotland setting Australia 181. It could have been an awful lot more than that if not for how well Nathan Ellis bowled at the death. At one stage, Scotland were at 85% on win-vis with like 45 balls to go or something like that, when Australia needed to go at basically 2 runs a ball. I think the equation actually worked out to be Australia's required run rate was 13.3 asking. That was what they needed, with 6.5 overs to go. So Scotland were this close, that close, to going top of the group, and instead, having gotten just about everything right through the pool stage, they're going home on the basis of that run rate. It's a cruel game sometimes, Daniel. It's a cruel game. They deserve a lot more than this.
It's utterly brutal. And, I think if they'd been in any other group, they'd have stood a really good chance of qualifying. The problem they had there is that, Australia and England are very strong sides, and there aren't many groups that have got very strong sides. If you say South Africa are a strong side, but they don't have another strong side in their group. India are a very strong side. I've watched all these games. There isn't another very strong side in their group. I think Scotland would give a lot of other teams a good run for their money, and they gave Australia a brilliant run for their money. They're a really quality team, Arguably, they were stiffed by the weather. They might have defended 109 in 10 overs against England, and then everything else would have been moot. And what impresses me most is that actually power hitting has always been a problem for the associates. They've always been able to sort of muddle by with canny bowlers, annoying nibblers. And in Scotland, they've got a really genuinely stellar bowler, I think, in Mark Watt, who should play way more franchise cricket than he does. Very clever bowler. I've seen him a lot now, both in Australia for the World T20 and here. It's the power hitting that's usually an issue. But they have unearthed in McMullen, he wasn't around in the last T20 World Cup, a really fine player. We've always known Richie Berrington was a good player. And now George Munsey, and they're hitting for the hills, and they've got a real belief. And honestly, people won't believe me, but I was kind of rooting for them to do it, because we kind of know what England can do. There are other tournaments that come round. England will always be in them. this was a real chance for Scotland to be in a winnable group as well,
Yep.
because they've been in a group with the West Indies, South Africa, and the USA. And I'd love to see them play the West Indies. I think they'd have a really good conscious chance. It's just the way, unfortunately, the seedings go and the groupings go. But my word, they gave England an absolute fright, especially, there was enough defibrillator necessary yesterday for England fans dealing with rain. I mean, you should have heard the commentators go, "It's blue sky. How can it be raining?" You go, "Well, there must be a cloud somewhere, lads." And the English fans go, "It's not fair. Can't you add more time? Do we have to have the anthems? Can't we?" No, you can't do any of that. No, you can't suddenly schedule a 5-over game because you think you can get it in if you do that now. You've got to run through with the protocols, I'm afraid. And Scotland is the reason why there were so many England fans who are in total conniptions, and justifiably so, because they're a bloody good team. And I'm really hoping we're going to see a lot more of them over the coming T20 World Cups. It's one of the great things about the expansion of the T20 World Cup, but I'm certain Scotland will be at the next one. They'll only grow from this experience. They'll hopefully get more games against good opponents in the next 2 years. And we're going to be talking about some of those players.
It's beautifully put. Just to build on a couple of those points. I mean, that 89 that McCullum and Munsey put on, they bossed the Australians. I mean, McCullum hit 6 sixes. Every Australian bowler went over the ropes via his bat yesterday, and it's been a consistent theme of his work. A 25-ball 50, got 60 from 34 balls all told. Barrington, a brisk 42 at the end to set them 181. But they didn't let off at that point either. It was their bowlers. They get Warner early on. That's Brad Wheel, who we see a lot of playing for Hampshire. Huge celebration there. Mitchell Marsh is out inside the power play as well. Glenn Maxwell gets an absolute unplayable from Mark Watt. You're right about Watt. We've seen him play so much domestic cricket in England. We've seen him play for Scotland. We've seen him on the world stage. He never lets you down. And I hope to see more of him in the years to come. What I was thinking when watching the game back today, haven't we seen enough from Scotland through this tournament that they should be en route to full member status? Now, I know that what happened with Ireland and Afghanistan, especially the conversations we've had around Ireland, that wasn't well handled in 2018 for a variety of reasons. But if they got the process right, I think Scotland have earned the right, much as it was with Bangladesh back in 1999. And yes, the Ireland story and Afghanistan story that we know well in the last 10 to 15 years. But I feel like Scotland have earned it. The way they've played at these big tournaments, especially the way they played over the last 2 weeks, I think that's a worthy conversation. And they've got the players who can mix it on the global stage. I reckon if they played Ireland in 20 international matches right now across the 3 formats, I mean, it's hard to judge on multi-days, sorry. If it were just 50-over cricket and 20-over cricket, if those two sides played each other 20 times, I think Scotland's probably winning 12 or 13 of them at the moment. That might be a bit unfair to Ireland based on what we've seen. But what I'm really trying to say is Scotland have taken the next big step, and I think there should be a pathway for them to take more steps like this one.
Well, I've got a solution to get us on that pathway. T20 cricket is so important. T20 World Cups are so important. They happen every 2 years. England are forever struggling against the so-called banana skin teams. They struggled against Scotland. They struggled against Ireland. They do actually okay against the bigger teams. Every time there's a World Cup, a T20 World Cup, they're going to be in these 5-team groups and they're going to be playing these associate nations. Why don't England, Scotland, and Ireland every year play a tri-series T20? I think it's
I would take it. I mean, I would take it one step further and include the Dutch in that for a European Championship. And even if it were, air quotes, an England 11, right, and it wasn't the first choice team, it does not matter. From the dawn of time in cricket, sides have been rolling out their not first 11 for certain series. It's not just a recent phenomenon with India sending a second team to play some internationals a couple of years ago, or Australia splitting their test team and their T20 side in 2017, I think it was. This has been happening forever. Why can't England send a team to a tournament like that, do two things at the same time, help themselves, but also help the development of the countries in their region? I agree. It should be an annual staple. It should rotate between the other 3 countries, and there'd be no downside whatsoever. I agree.
I come back to the point that you seldom get boards to do things unless there is in self-interest. And I would sell this to the ECB as, your teams seem to struggle always playing against these kind of teams. Why don't you practice? Why don't you practice playing against them? If you play 2 games against Ireland, 2 games against Scotland, 2 games against the Netherlands in a round robin, you can get you can do double headers. You can get the whole thing done and dusted in a week.
Easily.
Easily. And you don't have to have a final. but you can have a round robin and you get a league system, and that's it. And it'll be beneficial for England, and it'll be definitely beneficial for Scotland, Ireland, and the Netherlands. And it'll be a tournament, and it will be something that we're scheduled. And sometimes we get to go to Amsterdam, and I think that'd be kind of fun. I mean, also Edinburgh, which is also kind of fun, and Dublin, which is also kind of fun.
Not bad weekends away. We're up for it from a cricket perspective. Just to round out the podcast, the Australian side of things, Marcus Stoinis, another half-century in a World Cup chase. He's got a habit of doing this, 59 from 29 balls. When the game got tough, it was Travis Head and Marcus Stoinis who found an extra gear. And then Tim David, 24 not out from 14 balls. He did get dropped in that final over. There was a catch out in the deep, and he was put down by Sol. Had that been the case, it would have been Ashton Agar walking out, 3 needed, 3 to win, new batsman. Wasn't to be. Scotland don't get that opportunity, but Tim David hitting a couple of sixes, winning the game with a big one as well, and Matthew Wade out there at the end. Ashton Agar taking the new ball, getting a wicket in the side. They did leave out or rest Hazelwood and Cummins. It'll be interesting to see whether they are tempted to go with 2 spinners on I was going to say on used pitches. That's not the right framework. It's on pitches that in the Caribbean are taking the spin clearly. So that's a one to watch in days to come. Daniel, before I let you go, the football's about to start. We've both got places to be. The Final Word Hall of Fame, we've done most of this already. My only contribution for it, other than what we've already said, the crazy Shaheen Sharafredi, the review blowing and all the rest of it, was that Scottish tweet yesterday, and it was hammering down with rain in Antigua. They popped out. What a beautiful day for a game of cricket in St Lucia. And yes, I saw a couple of crazies on the internet get cross about that. That's what crazies will do who bet on the game for a living. But for the most part, the sentiment was right. They were doing their best, and look, we've enjoyed them so very much across the last 2 weeks. It won't be the last time they threaten to make the second stage of a World Cup. Anything from you?
I would say Mitchell Marsh's press conference, in which I've never seen an Australian captain look so confused about whether he was happy or not to have won a game of cricket. And I don't blame him, because they had to try and win. They were always going to try and win, but they wouldn't have really minded if they'd lost. So it was one of those really strange and unusual things that happens when you get tournament play and when you get leagues. And I kind of like that. And one last thing, I guess, just to finish off on the sheer madness of the game here, just like the serial ineptitude. Do people not shout for a catch anymore? It's up in the air. People not say mine. How can, in a virtually empty stadium, how can 2 people be going for the same catch? It boggles belief. Usman Khan went down, banged his head. We were supposed to be worried for him. I'm supposed to be sympathetic. You just learned this when you're 9 years old. Come on. Open your goddamn mouth. That's where I'm going to leave it. I've got to go to the footy.
Yeah, we've all got stuff to do. Thank you for joining us, Daniel. 2 huge games to round out Group C, where the Netherlands and the Bangladesh side are both vying for one spot. Jeff and I will be back to recap that and other stuff tomorrow. Enjoy your nights. Enjoy the football. This has been the Final Word Daily for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. Bye.